Shh, shh. The podcast is starting. Welcome to the OT Download, from practice to podcast. This is where we unpack everything you didn't know you needed to know about occupational therapy. Whether you're an OT, an OTA, a student, or simply curious, this is your place to explore the real stories, challenges, and opportunities shaping our profession. Each episode will dive into fresh topics from ethics to AI in practice, to the dynamics between OTs and AHAs, the differences between community and medico-legal work, and even what it's like stepping into the courtroom. You'll hear honest conversations on mental health, well-being, boundaries, and early career experiences, alongside insights from lawyers, allied health professionals, and other experts. We'll bust common misconceptions and shine a light on the parts of OT that don't always get spoken about. So if you're ready for insights, stories, and a no-nonsense take on occupational therapy, this is your download. Let's get into it.
Hi, welcome to the OT Download. It is Autism Awareness Month, so today we are talking about all things autism from a professional and a personal lens. So as OTs, we are constantly looking at our function, participation, and all things intervention, but how does that look from a personal lens?
I'm very excited to be part of this episode or this podcast because obviously, my son has severe autism, but now I work also for a group of occupational therapists, so I get to see both sides of the same world, how family situations translate into OT therapies, and more importantly, how OT therapies can translate into everyday's life for my son and other adults, teenagers, and children with autism.
Whereas I am the professional perspective. I am an occupational therapist with a main focus in psychosocial disability and neurodivergence, including autism. However, I'm a little bit more of kind of the late diagnosis side of things, of kind of mid to late teenagers and all the way through adults in different ages.
But that's fantastic because when my son was diagnosed 23 years ago, you didn't hear ever about late diagnosis, teenagers, adults. You never heard about any diagnosis at those ages. So we've gone a long, long way. Still a long way to go, but I think in autism world, the therapies and the assistance to families has been really fantastic in the last 20 years.
Yeah, well, things have changed a lot around kind of diagnostic criteria and everything too, and what recognizing the different kind of signs and symptoms.
Yes.
It's very much coming through that there are a lot more late diagnoses now compared to what there were. But there's also a lot more women with kind of autism diagnoses compared to 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Typically, they've always said that girls and women in the spectrum can hide it much better than boys and men.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because there is kind of a huge masking component there for women, but there's also a whole different kettle of fish that we probably won't go into of societal expectations and norms and roles as well that very much go into different presentations of different people. So, Belen, can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a parent of kind of, occupational therapy and your understanding of OT as you've gone through the process?
Yeah, well, it's as I mentioned in the introduction, it's a very long experience. My son is 26-year-old now, and he only got diagnosed at 3 years old because at the time there was a policy of not labeling children. While that changed, thank God, very quickly for an early diagnosis, which I believe now is between 12 and 18 months old, with all the early intervention in all regards that can be put into place. So we got a diagnosis at 2 years old, but not confirmed or official until Oscar, my son, was 3 years old. And then the confirming developmental pediatrician advised that we go on the net and find out what we could do.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Good old Google.
Yep. So he said, there's no therapies, I'm talking 20 years ago. There was literally nothing.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely nothing for children with autism or adults or teenagers. So then you, go and Google it. and go and get into that immense world of knowledge, but also cowboys and cons and people that take advantage of families. So it was a very hard and torturous world. We tried every single therapy that would not play with his, body or his mind too terribly.
So you tried all sorts of therapies. What kind of therapies did you?
We tried music therapy.
Yeah.
We tried singing therapy. We tried a lot of gut therapy, trying different diets.
Yeah.
We tried prompt therapy for after trying conventional speech therapy. Prompt therapy, which is managing the muscles of the mouth and trying to help all that. And that's where about 6 months of this gave us a nod for yes. 6 months. Because my son is nonverbal.
Yep.
And so we got a nod. That was good. It was worth it. Because before that, we didn't know. He screamed for years because he wouldn't say yes or not or indicate anything. So that was really good. But in general, all the therapies were like, we were in the Wild West trying. Yeah.
Far out. Because, if you don't have a roadmap, where do you even begin?
So it's a very new disorder in the scheme of things, in the history of medicine. So our experience with occupational therapy, basically, once we started to find people that did it actually, was all about, and it is still about, helping Oscar calm down. So we've learned that if you're in a state of panic, you don't take the best decisions. If you're in a state of panic, you don't listen. You don't learn, you cannot function
100%
in the world. And so we've learned that for him, that might mean jumping on a trampoline. That might mean going for a big hike. Generally physical things for Oscar. So thanks to the occupational therapy, we've gone to exercise physiology, we've gone to exchange communication. So Oscar functions in a physical way. But of course, nothing is aligned. And one of the things that I really try to remind myself as the main, therapist probably for us, is that things that didn't work 3 or 5 years ago might work now.
Yeah. So, like, for different apps and things, they might not have worked when Oscar was younger, but now he's at a stage where that is the way that his brain works. That does have that.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we're going back to, because he's non-verbal, we're going back to trying a few of the apps for communication, like Prologue or To Go, where he never got it completely right, because the screen doesn't work as well as for him to exchange a card saying a car, like when I go for a drive. But of course, the iPad is much more, and here's one of the other key, I suppose, components of therapies is much more generalized. So you can take it everywhere. And you can show everyone. And you can communicate not only with your mom, who understands what every kind of grant means, but actually something that says what Oscar wants.
Yeah.
So it's important to try to remember therapies and always to look for new ones, but also a huge difference for us with occupational therapy has been to find a house that is appropriate for Oscar, that it's adapted to his needs, and also a support working network, because he's one-on-one 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
So incredibly important to find the kind of profile of support worker and the kind of profile for his accommodation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, which again is not the same when you're 10 years old and you only go for respite at Easter, like when you live there, like he lives permanently there. So for example, he's a Houdini, so there has to be restrictive practices, and then you have to apply for restrictive practices, and then he breaks the window, and then you have to apply to be able to put double glazing.
Few
things
hoops.
like that. So the occupational therapist has been amazing in recommending these things and sort of, explain the reasonable and necessary criteria in the reports, so we could obtain that kind of accommodation for Oscar and that kind of support.
Yeah, but it sounds like, it is one of the really important things with neurodivergence as well, is finding the right team and having kind of that involvement and that buy-in from all the parties as well. And that's a huge one from kind of the occupational therapist perspective as well, is trying to make sure that there is the right team around.
Yeah. And from a family perspective, I suppose all you want is to be acknowledged as the person that really knows the most about the person in need.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So like all professionals, there are better listeners and worse listeners. And we found sometimes that it was like, okay, let's just talk about my son now. Love your theories, love what you're talking about, but that's got nothing to do with my son. So very important that we've been lucky enough to always have professionals that have physically come to Oscar's house. They've come to my house where Oscar spends weekends. They've gone to, when he went to day center or where the gym where he does his exercise physiology. And for me, the stakeholders meetings are the most important.
Oh, I love a good stakeholders meeting.
Yeah. It is so essential that everyone is on the same page. And now we're all used to Zoom and everything. So sometimes it doesn't take more than 30, 40 minutes.
I love a good stakeholders meeting, genuinely, because they are absolutely sensational to get all of the updated information on what's kind of happening.
Yeah.
And the people that are spending the most time with the client, they're the best source of that information. Like, I see them for an hour a week, a fortnight, a month, however long our appointments are. And it's very difficult to kind of get a full picture.
I think many times that the term occupational therapy is so misunderstood because it's badly named.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It should be called complete functionality or something like that, because it's all about functioning.
Yeah.
From 0 hour to 24 hour of your day. And there's no other professional that does that. There's no other health professional that does that. That looks at where you live, how do you transport, with whom do you transport, what is that person, do you need one, do you need two people? It's comprehensive.
Because I also find it really interesting as well is one of the things that I've seen OT kind of thrive as well is reading between the lines a little bit too, and going, okay, cool. So we've had this happen. What happened directly before then? What are all of the factors? And really doing kind of an in-depth task analysis to work out going, oh, okay, cool. So there's this one particular sound that happens for a split second that is enough that just throws us into dysregulation. Okay, cool. How can we avoid that? Or how can we, work around that to make this person's life just a little bit easier?
But not only centered in what the carers or the support workers do, but centered around what is around the person physically. Well, I've never seen any other professional doing that. What's the light? What's the temperature here? Does he have a sensory room where he can relax? What's the music like? Is there a busy road? Is not a busy road? Can he go for a walk easily? It's comprehensive, and that's I mean, we would all benefit from one, honestly. So, Ellie, as an occupational therapist, how do you ensure in practical ways that all your ideas, interventions, and therapies translate into home life, school life, sports life, if they do recreation, leisure? How do you generalize the knowledge that you, or how do you advise the families to do it? What happens in your experience?
So within kind of neurodivergence and autism, because every person that we meet is vastly different, and I tend to believe that of kind of any diagnosis, to be honest. It's very rare that you'll find two people that are the exact same presentation.
Yeah.
I very much present myself as really good at brainstorming and come in and just get an understanding of what is happening for the individual. And you do that information through kind of talking to the individual directly, because they're at the center of the purpose. And then if they're like non-speaking or anything, going to the main supports around. So we talk to kind of parents, partners, family members,
what
main
they like,
caregivers.
what they dislike.
Absolutely, 100%. Looking at, cool, what are the things that we're really good at, the things that we really enjoy. We look a lot at kind of any, I hate using the term behaviors, but that tends to be the term that gets used.
Well, what can you use if it's not behavior?
Exactly.
Expression?
Yeah, 100%, because a lot of behaviors, particularly in kind of non-speaking individuals, it's communication.
It's
And
the only way you can
100%.
really think that you might understand.
And we also work out the different strategies for environment as well. So sensory regulation is another really big part of it too, where we look at the lights, we look at the sounds, we look at the taste, the textures, the different fabrics, clothing tags, how supportive shoes are, the jingle of keys in the door. We look at all of those bits and pieces, because for one person it might be, that's just a thing.
We live with a lot of autism around us, but the general public doesn't, and so they want to make it homogeneous and said, oh, they're all really clever, aren't they? Or they all cannot look in. And I go, there is as much diversity as in the non-autistic world. They are the ones that look you in the face. They are the ones that hug you, the ones that don't allow anybody to touch them because it hurts.
Absolutely.
There's every single IQ and EQ, emotional intelligence, and so it's really a puzzle. And I think it was at least for Autism Queensland, the symbol was a puzzle, because every single person is as complicated as a neuro divergent or non-divergent, neurotypical
absolutely.
or non-neurotypical.
Yeah.
So you have to, the complication here is that they, might struggle more to express their emotion, to recognize their emotions, and then to regulate their emotions. So it's fascinating, really.
It is, absolutely. I'm a huge one for breaking norms. So, like, who said that I have to fold all of my clothes to put them away? If they don't wrinkle, then it's not necessary. And no one is seeing your underwear or usually your socks and things as well. It's not providing permission, but it kind of is, of just going, okay, well, who actually made that rule? Why does that rule exist? Can we think of any reasons why it exists in this context? No, then cool. We could probably disregard that one.
Okay, priorities.
Absolutely.
Priorities are very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how do you deal when there is a group of stakeholders that is very diverse? Like, I don't know, the different circles where the individual moves around might struggle to agree on how to, put in place the ideas you've given them. Yeah.
So I don't tend to think that there's one solution for everything, because every environment is different. So for example, if we're looking at kind of how we're talking about things, awesome. Maybe we're adding just a dot point of, hey, maybe approach from this way. So even if you start with your usual way of communicating, let's just add this on at the end, so that way we're adding a bit of flexibility in our language and things.
It's just reminded me when my son was young, and the OT and the speech said, say his name before, but then say what you want, because for him hearing Oscar is like, what? So Oscar, come here. And some people say, oh, you're talking to him like a dog. I said, no, you're not. You're making his life easier. If you go, hey, darling, would you mind coming here now? He loses a lot of words, and he might lose the most important information. So I learned from the professionals that, the less words, the better, but key words. So the key words don't get lost in the message. But then when I try to transfer it to some support workers or to some school settings, they would say, "Oh, you're talking to him like a dog," and I'm like, "Oh, never thought about that." I mean, yeah, families have all kinds of experiences. I've been told that more than once.
Oh, cool.
And you would go, well, no, I'm trying to make his life easier, and it works.
Yeah.
He seems calmer because he understands.
Well, yeah,
the
you're not
message.
talking to him like a dog. You're narrowing the focus of the request. And I am a huge one for kind of, cool, give you the strategy, give it a go. See how it works. If it doesn't, that's absolutely fine. We've got a whole heap more stuff in our arsenal that we can bring out as well.
Yeah.
But let's just start here, see what happens.
Ellie, I wanted to touch also on some of the challenges for families when receiving occupational therapy services. For me, it has been very hard to quantify for the NDIA, which is the agency that runs the NDIS for scheme.
Yep.
When you have to renew or ask for a change of circumstances, which means getting a new plan from the NDIS, and particularly in this moment where they're trying to cut costs.
There are a lot of changes.
A lot of changes. Particularly preparing reports for a new NDIS plan. And so I've had rejected occupational therapy services. I've had exercise physiology rejected because I cannot prove improvements. So it took me a year to fight with the tribunal, where you sort of appeal when you don't get what you want from the NDIS, saying that I needed to quantify it more specifically. And so my whole battle, and thank God all the professionals went with me in all the reports, like, this is not a physical disability where if a person cannot go from point A to point B, you get a wheelchair or you get a walker or you get a stick. Or if you want to get someone out of the bed, you might get a hoist. Done.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
It's very different to physical disability.
It's about how the whole day life goes for this person, and how some days he's making himself a sandwich. Might be only 5% of the days, but before he would just grab a spoon and eat the butter with a spoon.
Same.
So, or how he used to run away every time there was a door or a window open, and he's only run away 3 times, and they just go, oh, well, that's fantastic because he would to run away so much, and now he only runs away, so he doesn't need it. And I'm like, but you only have to run away one time.
Yeah, but he's
to get
still
run
running
over.
away. Yeah.
A person that has not road road awareness or stranger danger awareness.
Yeah, absolutely.
You cannot quantify because there are things that you only risk once. Like, restrictive practices, you need a lock. You need an internal lock. I'm sorry. But, we're talking about adults now where you're putting restrictive practices to an adult, which legally is not allowed except if you have a decision.
Yeah. So he was running away kind of every time the door was open. Cool. Now he's only doing it half of the time. Sensational. He's made this leaps and bounds. However, the outcome ideally that we want to continue working towards is that not running away at all.
Yeah.
Where we don't want this to be that kind of environment that
and the thing is, you cannot say, oh, then he only needs half of the time in support worker hours because he's still able to run away 50% of the time, and you have to watch him 100% of the time.
Absolutely. And
so
that's the thing that we focus on.
Quantify, and they say, oh, great. Then we'll cut it by 50%. And you go, and my son will run away. And get hit by a truck.
And that's why we have to be really careful about which side if we're doing the strengths focus or the deficit focus. I am a strengths focused human being. However, we are working within the funding constraints of an insurance scheme, which is a deficit focused thing. Yeah. So we have to really toe that line, and I always give all of my clients kind of a warning if they're reading the report that I write about them and going, look, I'm so sorry, this is written for an insurance scheme, and it's not going to be nice to hear about yourself in a deficit focus. I know how wonderful you are. I know how far you've come and everything as well, and we've got little tidbits of that, but we really have to focus on the fact that, we're still
It's
running
what you
away
need.
50% of the time.
It's a needs
Yeah.
scheme. So it's
Absolutely.
what
We
you
need to highlight the needs that are still there. But I also have a huge thing as well. So I've been asked previously about reducing the amount of hours and things that have been recommending because, NDIS isn't going to prove that. It's like, okay. And they don't have to, but that's my clinical recommendation that I think that this is what is necessary for this person. If they don't take that recommendation, they only give you half those hours, then that's a them problem. But this is the clinical recommendation that I believe is necessary to be able to achieve this goal, which is linked to our NDIS goals as well.
Yeah, but it's also a you problem for the family, because if you really want 100 hours of OT or speech pathology or psychology and you get 50, you should fight it.
Makes it easy. Well, it makes it easier for families to fight it as well, if that is the original clinical recommendation as well, rather than changing it to what NDIS is likely to approve. Sometimes I find that is vastly different to what a person actually requires to be able to have that goal achieved. So then it makes you've got that evidence there that you can go back to kind of NDIS and go, hang on, this is the clinical recommendation. Where is your working out as well?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we have to keep in perspective that there's a person. At the end of all these reports or of all these studies, of all these tests or of all these trials, there's a person waiting for support.
100%.
Of that kind of support. And I think it's very good sometimes to just get back and say, hold on, what is this about? It's not just my fight with the NDIS. It's not just this. No, it's Oscar is waiting for this kind of support. So let's refocus to just go back.
Absolutely. And sometimes that is about that. What we're doing as well is we're using kind of the family and the supports around a person as well to get the most out of our plan and our funding as well, because sometimes I don't get nearly enough funding and things. We've already gone through all of the arguments and everything to try and increase it. It hasn't worked. So then very much using the support network that is already there to help implement, and it's providing a lot of education around all of the different bits and bobs as best we can, so that way you can use your knowledge of the human being, the person, to be able to implement them as best we possibly can as well. Because look, it's a lot better than what it used to be funding wise. NDIS is
we had nothing,
absolute game changer.
As I said when I started, we had no NDIS.
100%.
We didn't have any kindy, any schools, nothing for autism. Absolutely, there was Autism Queensland that provided a program. I think it was like a couple of hours a week, something like that, and that was it. The rest, you just good luck, person-centered.
Absolutely,
what the people need really. Because it's a fabulous system that does not exist anywhere else in the world.
No.
It's an Australian thing. Only here. So we're very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is about the individual. And it's really tricky to kind of have a scheme on this scale and be able to kind of see every individual for their individual funding and everything, and things as well. And especially within kind of anything involving brains.
Okay, Ellie. So now we're going to jump into busting some myths about autism and therapies.
Yep.
So I just wanted to ask you, for example, all children need the same therapy?
Oh, absolutely not. I have never met two children that are the exact same, even if they're twins, right? Every kid, every adult, every human being is an individual, and they're vastly different to each other, and their needs and goals are going to be vastly different as well. You have to look at the individual every time. All right, so I have a myth for you.
Yeah.
What about the myth that parents just need to follow the therapist's advice?
Ooh, I would turn it around. I say therapists just need to follow the parents' advice.
Ooh.
No, it's not black and white.
So I'd go and meet in the middle there of it's a collaborative effort.
It's collaborative, and it's with the therapist, and it's with the, all the people that are important to the person with autism, the sisters, the brothers, the drivers, anyone in their life. So yes, listen to the therapist, but then generalize the knowledge with everyone and try to apply it everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've got another one for you. What do you think about this myth? Independence means doing everything alone.
Absolutely not. Independence is really dependent on the individual and what it is that they want and need to achieve, right? It depends on what the difficulty is and everything. Because if we look at how well someone is doing one particular task, to get to a place where they're doing that task completely by themselves might not be achievable, depending on so many different factors around kind of all of their cognition even can impact on that. And then there's all of the preferences, there's all the sensory things as well. What we're kind of aiming for with independence is what that means to the individual. If that's something that they're completely cool with, they just want to be able to go shopping, because at the moment they're not leaving the house. They want to be able to go shopping, but they still need someone with them to be able to mitigate some of the other kind of factors of condition. So it might be that they have a lot of difficulty with memory stuff. Awesome. There are so many different things that we can do with memory, but at the end of the day, if you can't remember how you got to the shops, it's probably safer to have someone with you to make sure that you can remember how to get home safely as well.
So independence would mean, from your point of view, more being able to do something. And the amount and quality and quantity of supports vary from person to person.
100%. Because quality of life also comes into kind of the goal achievement perspective too, because it's going to look different for every person, because someone's quality of life it's going to be different depending on how they get about that goal, if that makes sense.
How about this other myth? Small changes don't matter.
They do matter. They do. And especially when we're looking at such a complex condition. So anything involving the brain has complexity to it. But with things like neurodivergence, there are so many different factors at play that any small change is absolutely something to be celebrated. It's something that we really need to acknowledge. And that's also something that I'd work on a lot with different clients too, is celebrating those small wins too, because there is that tendency there does tend to be that emotional journey that just gets cut and goes, cool, we're done with that now, rather than actually acknowledging the full depth of that emotional journey, how far we've come to celebrate just getting to here. Yes. Sensational. It doesn't matter if we go any further, because look how far we've already come. We need to have that acknowledgement, and there does tend to be that kind of open close sort of view within a lot of neurodivergent profiles. So
but small advances also build up.
Absolutely. So every little bit counts.
Day, you're getting, when you start with a nod, like I said, it took us 6 months of therapy to get a nod for my son just to say yes, that built then to shake his head to say no. It was not 6 months. It was actually 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
So it's really small over small. It's huge.
Absolutely.
Changes.
And it's about building momentum as well. Like, we don't know how far we're going to get with these skills, but hey, this is at least the first step.
It's what they say about the big boats, no? When you move only a little bit of the boat and then gain momentum and the whole boat turns.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those things. If you put 5 cents in a piggy bank every day, it's only 5 cents, but it's going to add up by the end of the year.
Yep. And there's no more small win.
No.
It's all big wins, in my view. If you get a win, it's a win.
Yeah, a win is a win is a win. It's great.
Exactly. I'll take it. Okay, so Ellie, final myth. Do you think that OT sessions can provide, OT sessions alone can provide change?
No. I mean, like, if you look at kind of the intervention with Oscar, was it just the OT sessions that made the differences.
Impossible.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. It's a collaborative effort. It's everyone, including Oscar, including the individual as well, because it's their efforts as well that are creating the change.
So the session alone can make a huge difference to start a little movement. But if it stops where the session stops, then that's it. It doesn't go
Absolutely.
anywhere.
And especially because I only have kind of access to the human being and all the supports for an hour a fortnight, an hour a month, an hour a week, whatever the frequency of my appointments are.
Yeah.
And there's so many different hours in a week
Yeah.
that 1 hour is not going to make a huge difference by itself. It's all of the repercussions from that hour.
Yeah. But you come with the ideas, you come with the structure, you come with the plans, and for that, from a family perspective, we don't have the ability to do that.
And I think that's all we've got time for. Thank you very much for tuning in to the OT Download.
If this resonated with you, please like and follow, and we'll see you soon in the next episode. Bye.